All right, Cub, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
And congrats, man. I know I said that after your fight, but I haven't talked to you since then on the podcast. So I wanted to say, man, fantastic fight, dude. You looked so happy when that was over.
Yeah, I didn't expect him to really attack my leg like that. I mean, I guess you would imagine he'd go after it a little bit, but yeah, for a second there, I was like, man, are you really gonna lose the leg kicks? But yeah, I had to, step it up a notch and I was able to take care of business.
I mean, I know you got to do what you got to do to win, but I always find it cheap when people attack injuries. Like I would feel like I've never done it, and I would feel really. I mean, that's just me. You know what I mean? And it is what it is. I mean, it's a sport. It's a game. You got to win. But I would just feel weird attacking an injury and getting a win that way, which he didn't. But I mean, he obviously would have. And I was nervous, man, because like a couple of those first kicks, it seemed like it buckled your knee. And when you buckle your knee like that, I mean, that could easily have been like a tear on your ACL or MCL or something. So a few times I was kind of worried that it might have like re-injured your knee or something. So I was like, shit, man. But you just handled it and kept coming back.
Yeah, the game plan was to not really check it and to kind of step forward and punch him at the same time. The problem is he put on quite a bit of weight, so those kicks had a lot of oomph on them. So when I was trying to say, okay, I'll eat the kick and punch you at the same time, it was still buckling my knee.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was concerned too because at the end of the day, I spent a whole year trying to rehab that.
Yeah.
So getting it re-injured was not something I was looking forward to.
You had the trifecta with the ACL, the meniscus, and the MCL, and like after that rehab, and then I had surgery again after that. It's like that. It terrifies me, man. I'm like scared to do anything that's going to cause that again. It was like literally the worst experience in my life, and having to do the rehab and I didn't do it right because I came to Thailand, and so and then having to it took years before I could even get my heel back to my ass because I couldn't bend my leg back. And that's like my career was over by the time I could actually put my heel back all the way to my leg. So I was like, I totally understand, man. That must be a scary thing, scary thing when you're out there. And then someone starts kicking your leg. And I think he said he was going to try and wrestle you and work on some wrestling. And then he started going with those leg kicks. And it was very obvious his game plan was going to be leg kicks. But you fired off well. Your boxing was really good. Your grappling was really good. Your transitions, your escapes. I was real impressed, man. Overall, just really great fight. And you're right, he was huge. He was gigantic, man. And like another interesting point that has nothing to do with the fight, but it was like a fighting tattoo exhibit. Like because when y'all were clinched up and like circling around, it was like a 360 tattoo, like all the way around. Because his whole back and your whole back was like covered. So just as a side note, it was very artsy.
Well, that's cool.
You did it in style.
I'm glad that helped.
Yeah, so that added flair and art to the fight, which was already artful with your technique. Just take me through the fight just really fast. Just like, what were your thoughts? I mean, like, obviously you were on point with your striking. You were on point the whole time. The only thing that got you off point was the kicks and stuff, which was because he was taking you off point. It wasn't like you were making mistakes or you were not doing what you were supposed to do. What was going through your mind as you were trying to take the fight or have the fight, and you were on point, you were feeling good, you were being composed and patient, especially when you heard him, you were waiting for the right shots, but he kept landing that kick and kind of taking you off and frustrating you, and he was really strong in the beginning. What was going through your mind at that time?
Just to stay focused and not start doubting yourself. Because I was feeling like I was getting more comfortable, and I was trying to get my rhythm, and then just like a thunk, then all of a sudden you're off your rhythm. So it was a little frustrating, but it kind of just lit a fire under my ass and said, all right, let's get to work. You need to go. And that's a benefit that I've had of these last couple training camps, is getting back to being fast and being loose. And that was such like a mental breakthrough for me, because every fight I've always been that killer Cub, and I would get into this like kind of pre-fight rage that I just wanted to tear my opponent's head off type thing. That's like the dark place I needed to go to be able to get through the pressures of the fight world, and you know what it's like. Sometimes it's not easy.
Yeah.
And this fight, I really knew that this guy's gonna be big and strong, and your best asset is to be fast and loose. If you try to be big and strong like him, it's not gonna be a good night for you. The way he dismantled, was it Humberto Burns, Gilbert Burns' brother?
Yeah, yeah.
I knew that me trying to outstrength him was going to be a mistake, and me trying to hit him hard and be tense. So I didn't listen to music backstage purposely because I just wanted to, how do you prepare for your sparring sessions at the boxing gym? You just kind of relax. You warm up a little bit. You don't do too much, and you just go out there and do your thing. And that's how I thought of it, going out there. And then I had the music on that reminded me of my kids, and kind of playful. And I just had a great performance, I was proud of myself for that one.
Yeah, and usually when I see people hurt someone or they got them rocked, they got them hurt, I'm like, kill him, because I got a killer instinct just like you do, But I was like, this was a time where like I didn't even do that, and you did the right thing. You were very composed and patient, and you knew you were just one or two punches away from taking him out or getting that knockdown that's going to take him out, which ultimately did. But and during the fight, I don't know, you just seem in such good control that I never was like, kill him, go. Like I felt like you were doing the right thing the entire time. Like it was just, when you were being very patient there at the end of the first, and what was going through your mind in that between the first and second when you were going back out there? Like obviously you knew that you had him hurt, and he was definitely on the downward spiral there.
So when I dropped him, he fell down, and I kind of chased him down and was trying to hit him, and I knew he was going to try to wrestle me to recover. So I created space, and he got to his knees, and I was holding his head. And my first instinct was like, kick him in the face. Like, no, that's illegal. Don't do that. Because he was moving, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, I have to punch him. And I punched right on the top of his head, and I broke my hand.
Oh, jeez.
So I ended up letting him up, and I could hear everyone like, go. But I knew I broke my hand. So I gave it a second. And then I lunged in with a punch, and then I landed some vicious elbows. And because I knew it was short time, I heard the clap. And so I landed 3 hard elbows. And then once the bell rang, I just was like, there's no way he's coming back from that. Yeah. Like he's going to sit on the stool. There's no way he's going to recover in a minute. So I sat on the stool, and I tried to get as composed as possible, tried to catch my breath, drink some water, listen to my corner. But I knew coming back out, like I just got to touch him one more time, and he's right back to where he was. So I was a little bit more composed, and people kept asking me when I kind of covered up and turtle shelled. The game plan was to circle away from the fence and not be on the fence, but I knew that, the fight had changed, and I was like, I kind of want to see what he's got right here. So I just waited, and then I saw him throw, and I blocked. And then I just came up with the uppercut and then the straight right. And, my hand was broken. So I hit those 2 shots with a broken hand. And the only one that really hurt me was when I had to hit him on the ground, which I didn't want to do, but the ref kind of gave me the, it's not done. And I was like, damn. And I hit him one more time. And that one, like, when I screamed after the fight, like it was half pain, half.
Then the ref's like, "What the hell are you doing, Cub? Let him go." It turns on you after one punch. Yeah, it's funny, and that's experience, man. Because like a lot of people think like you get someone hurt, especially between a round like that, and they just got they barely escaped that first round and they're hurt. It's a matter of like recovery. It's like, don't let him recover. He's gonna come back and all this kind of stuff. But like your experience just told me, and this is what people need to listen to. When you're in a fight and you get caught like that, when you start off so strong like he does, and he's so big and strong, and he's landing some big things, and the kicks are effective, and he's doing, I think in his mind, good in the very beginning, even though you were too. Mm-hmm. When you get rocked like that and you get hurt and you barely survive a round, it's a mental game. I mean, the fighting is mental, so it's not just about how hurt he is and he's sitting there, maybe cobwebs and he's a little dizzy. It's the mental side, and now he's scared and he's panicked and he's worried and he's like, shit, this isn't going my way. So it's accumulation of a lot of things, and I think you did perfect with coming out there and just stalking him down like you did. I was going to ask you, have you tried Manscaped? Not you, Cub. I'm talking about you guys out there. Because if you haven't tried Manscaped, you're missing out. The best below-the-waist men's grooming products on the market. I have them. Look at this. They have everything. I'm not going to break out the lawnmower, which is the most awesome shaver that they've ever made and anyone's ever made, because it's been used, and I don't think you want to see it. But, man, I use the products. They're fantastic. Manscaped is precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and now you can get 20% off and free shipping by using code QUICK at checkout at manscaped.com, manscaped.com. Code QUICK, my nickname, not how you do it, not how you use the products. Code QUICK, 20% off, free shipping, manscaped.com, sports podcast. Make yourself have the best products on the market. It's a win-win for everyone. Lie to me if you have to, but your hand and your knee, I assume, is okay. Like I didn't know if like you re-injured your knee or anything, and obviously lie to me if you have to if there's any kind of injuries. But it seems like everything should be okay by now. It's been like 4 months, so I'm pretty sure everything's pretty rock solid and you're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, I started training pretty quickly right afterwards, because I spent a week and my knee was swollen. I felt like I had lost a couple months of rehab by getting it banged up like that. So I took the first week off, and I didn't really like elevate it or rest it really. I just wasn't training. And it swelled up. I feel like it got worse.
Yeah.
So, as a veteran, it's like resting isn't helping. Okay, then you need to do something. So I got right back into physical therapy, and I started elevating it, icing it, and working it out and moving it to get the swelling out. And within a week of that, I was already feeling better, not limping anymore. And I started strength training it right away, because I was like, look, if I'm going to fight, say, in 4 or 5 months, I need to start working now. So that's what I did. So I had a cast on that I could take on and off. Because they know me really well. I've been there many times, so they trust me with a cast that I can take on and off. So I was able to lift weights and do everything. And then once it was 100%, I started striking again, and it was pretty smooth.
Yeah, well, you won the fight with a broken hand, so I'm not too worried about a 4-month healed hand. I think it's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I'm actually 6-1 in fights that I've broken my hand during the fight.
I believe you, man. I 100% believe it. You tell me that. And then after the fight, you're emotional and you were relieved and you were super happy and stuff. And like I know you told Joe Rogan that it had to do with your kids and other a bunch of other things and stuff. But what is it that really like what are you fighting for now that really is your inspiration and gives you that fulfillment and that relief? I mean, you've had like so many fights. I mean, 40 something. I mean, it was like 40 or at least 40 fights.
Yeah, I think I'm 38, I think.
Yes, yeah, 38. So what is it that you're fighting for that gives you that kind of fulfillment and that great feeling after you get these wins like this now?
Well, these last 4 years or so, especially with the little bit of that losing streak I had, with the injuries I've had many, rethink this, reevaluate. Are you done? Are you satisfied with your career? Can you walk away right now and be happy? And it was always no, because I never really fulfilled my ultimate dream of being the best version of myself. And I'm fortunate that I've been able to keep that with me, and I've deviated from that at certain times when, fans and the industry kind of makes you feel like the only important thing is winning a belt.
Right.
And that is huge, because it validates you to other people, and it's nice and shiny, and it brings all these extra things. It helps you get paid more. It does so many things to validate your career. But in all honesty, the reason I do it is to become a better person, a stronger person, to really be happy with myself, of my accomplishments, of what I've been able to push myself, things I've been able to push past. And so I've really focused a lot in the last couple of years about what that means to myself. And I really feel like these last few camps, man, they really just taken me to new heights of, what I can endure, what I can handle as a person, what kind of pressure you can take on and still perform. And I'm so proud of being able to still do it at this point. And I've learned so much about myself in these last few years, and especially now that I'm, like a full-time dad and training and mentoring fighters and managing fighters, and a businessman, to be able to do all these things and still be able to chase my dream. I'm proud of myself for that. And to me, that's a champion, like they can't take that from me. It doesn't really take, a shiny strap and for people to validate that. Like, I feel validated.
Yeah. What did you do to celebrate? Like, what do you do now after your fights? Obviously, in the beginning of your career, things are a little different than toward the 20 and 30 mark, 40 mark. What did you do to celebrate after this one?
Man, it was probably one of my favorites. There's different personality types, as we, most people know. I'm one of those people that I'm introverted, and for me to give, a piece of myself takes a lot from me.
Right.
So when I go out there and fight and I give this piece of myself and I show the world, it takes a lot from me, right? So when the bell rings, you think it's over, and it's not. You're in Vegas and you have a couple hundred people that came out to support you. Like, it is also my job to go out with them and celebrate and make them feel special. And it sucks because, it's friends and family, and they're like, yeah, let's party, but they're celebrating. They're not really.
Yeah.
If they never once asked me, what would you want to do? What really? I want to go home. I want to go to my bed and watch a movie, like get some dessert. Like, I don't want to be here at a nightclub,
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. So this last fight, with the whole lockdown thing, me and my cornerman packed up everything, because if we left the premises, we weren't allowed back. And my wife had flown in, and she was staying at a different hotel, and she was waiting for me. All my team packed up, and they all took off, and I got a ride over to meet up with my wife, and me and her just had alone time. Me and her got to rewatch the fight once on our iPad. We had some wine, ate a bunch of candy, went to sleep. Woke up the next morning, had a great breakfast, and rushed home to see the kids. And that was perfect for me. Like, I need to slow down after, I don't want to party after. That's a misconception that I think people don't realize.
Yeah. Well, you were on the podcast before that fight, and you squeezed me in last minute during fight week, which I greatly appreciate, taking the time out for. I felt so bad because I know you're focused on your fight week and stuff. But hey, man, so far being on my podcast is a winning formula. And here you are coming up now, fighting Giga Chickadze. I'm not good with his last name. I know about him. I've seen him fight, but so let's talk about that real fast. Obviously, we got a kickboxer here. He's going to be a striker. I would assume your game plan is going to be geared more to the groundwork, because your groundwork is phenomenal, just like your striking. But this is a part of me that just says I can't picture you just doing groundwork or shooting takedowns the whole time, and you're going to get in there and you're going to try and knock this guy out. So anyway, how's the camp been going, and how's your preparation going, and how do you just feel about this fight with this opponent?
Well, the camp's been great. It was a little different dynamic. Had to change some things around, but ultimately it was pretty smooth. I started training, right away. One of my main training partners, Juan Archuleta, has a fight the week after me, so he's gonna be cornering me, and then I'm literally gonna fly to his Bellator 135-pound title fight and corner him. So and then TJ is another one of our teammates that fights the very next day after him. So we were all kind of getting ready, working together and then working separately, which is something I really like to do. I'm not a big fan of the whole group setting anymore. So we worked very specific training, a lot of rounds. And it was, like I said, it was pretty smooth. I'm very familiar with Giga. We've been around each other quite a bit. Haven't really trained much, but we're friendly. My manager almost managed him, and so I've known about him before he even turned pro. And I've given him advice and stuff like that. So yeah, we've known each other for a while. So I think that he's a great prospect and got tons of talent. But I just think that I'm definitely a step up for him. And I'm not afraid to strike with him, but I also know what his weaknesses are. So
yeah,
I think I'm just going to go out there and fight the best fight possible.
These fights are interesting because, like, in a situation like this, in a situation where you're giving him advice and mentoring him kind of, or you've seen him as he's came up, you're the veteran, you're the one with experience, you're the one he kind of, I'm sure, looked up to for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about that at some point. So yeah, the edge would be on you, obviously, for many reasons. But the dynamic that's interesting about this is where guys step up too. So this is where guys are going to bring their A game, and they surprise a lot of people. And they sometimes have their best fights is when they fight their heroes. You got Uriah Hall versus Anderson Silva, like these type of fights. So it's like these guys that fight guys that they've looked up to or had give advice to. So it's an interesting dynamic. I think you're going to get a very good Giga for sure. But I definitely think you're going to be able to handle it, no problem.
Yeah, and
nothing against him.
I always, some of my teammates will be like, "Why do you always give too much respect to your opponents?" And it's like, man, I always respect that. They're good for a reason, and they're there for a reason. The times that I've always told myself, "You're better than this guy everywhere," they've surprised me because I set such a low bar for them. I'm expecting the best Giga. I'm expecting, I know what he's good at. I watched his film. I've seen him at the gym, so I know what he's good at. But I know that when the fight, when you're in there, it's different than in the gym. It's different. So I'm expecting the best version of him. I'm expecting a very tough problem to solve. But I also know that if I go out there and I just have a great performance, that it could also be one of my easiest fights, just stylistically. But I also know that if I'm not on point and I make mistakes, that it could be a very tough night. So, I'm just focused on me being me.
I agree with you. And the thing is with him is like, I mean, it's going to bring out the best of him, but you're going to do really good. And I don't see a problem there. And it's interesting. And from this point, like as far as when you're getting ready for this fight at 37 years old compared to your when you're getting ready for fights when you were younger, how much harder is it for you now? I mean, do you notice a significant difference, or is it kind of the same? Or are you easing up on certain parts of your training? Like a lot of guys stop sparring as hard. They don't do certain things as hard and more technical. Are you changing things around a little bit for just your body have the wear and tear, or is it just kind of is your body still just hanging in there like always?
Yeah, what I do is I've done this for a while now. I try to do like 14-week camps. I spend about 4 weeks just trying to get in the best shape possible. Then I spend, a good 6 to 8 weeks grinding, and then I really pull back. And any time in between there, if there's any little injuries, I pull back. If I notice, I'm wearing the Aura ring. I have other apps. If I notice that my recovery isn't there, I pull back, so I don't allow myself to get sick. I do a lot of things to just make sure that I'm healthy. One of the biggest things I've had to do in the last couple camps is I get body work done maybe 3 times a week.
Wow.
I'm talking deep tissue massage, chiropractor, seeing physical therapists, just working on me, and they're like, "Geez, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Hey man, I'm training." And they're like, "Well, you should do this." I'm like, "Hey, just put me back and let me do my thing," And so I'm still grinding, but I just know what window of time in the training camp is the most important. And then towards the end, you always want to put in more, but I know like, hey, you're a veteran, you're fine. You put in the work. Pull back, go in healthy, because that's most important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to take up too much of your time. I want to get through this and let you get on with your day. But I want to ask you real quick a couple things. What did you think about UFC 261? Did you watch that?
Yeah,
How crazy was that? What a crazy night of fights, huh?
yeah. We we were watching it. As- I think the crowd definitely, they were wild. They were pushing the fights. It was nice to hear. It was nice to hear the crowd again. Obviously, the injury that happened, I was like, ugh, turn it off for a little while. I don't want to see that. But
Yeah.
man, it really bums me out to see, in combat sports when someone gets a real injury like that. It really makes you, you know, it reminds us all that this is a dangerous game and we got to be very prepared. And you never want to see that happen to any fighters. So yeah, that was unfortunate. And then all the title fights were great. They were all finishes, and yeah, I think it was a great card all in all.
Yeah, I think it was a great card for the fans to finally come back and be able to fill a stadium for. I mean, I know we don't, as fighters, don't like those injuries, but the fans, they're hardcore savages out there. They like all excitement, whether there's a knockout or a leg break or whatever it takes. To them, that's what they get off on. So to them, it was a very exciting show, and I agree with you. And like with Weidman, like I don't know about Anderson's kick where it was, but for Weidman, it's like that broke like two bones. There's like two bones in your leg right there. And that's like a
Yeah,
plate. He's going to have to put a plate in there to fix that. So that's a tough recovery. So I'm with you
yeah,
on that. Like, my heart's out to him, and I hope he has a good recovery.
yeah. That happened to me in high school, so I'm
Ugh.
very very aware of it.
Yeah, that's a rough one,
I
man.
was lucky though because I broke both bones in my shin straight across like that playing soccer, and I was lucky because I had a shin guard and a sock, and it was taped and everything, so it wasn't displaced like those guys. And I didn't step on it. I fell when I broke it. So mine was a clean break straight across,
Yeah.
and I had to wear a cast from my toes to my hip for almost 3 months. So yeah, I'm very aware. But that's why my right shin is so hard now because in high
Yeah.
school I snapped it straight across, and my shin guard snapped in half too. But
Oh,
yeah,
damn.
it's a terrible injury, and yeah, I mean, we've seen the Alex Smith thing. It can turn a whole different direction if it gets infected, and yeah. So man, I hope he has a speedy recovery.
And I think the worst part, like the only thing worse than breaking your shin bone like that on a kick is when you step back on top of it, and like
Hmm.
you could see from the look in his face, like he didn't know he broke his shin until he
Yeah,
stepped back. I think it takes
yeah,
a while for the pain to kick in, and he threw the kick and then it brought the leg all the way back, and until he stepped back and felt it give, that's when you kind
yeah,
of saw him kind of wince, and that can't be good, for your bones to just your foot to just turn sideways and go in there. But hats off to him. I don't want to harp on that, and I hope he has a speedy recovery. But man, I want to say not only was the knockouts incredible, Masvidal obviously didn't have a good night, but it was a beautiful knockout by Usman, and we'd never seen that with Masvidal, so that was crazy exciting just to see a man who never been knocked out like that get knocked out. Even though I got a lot of respect for Masvidal, but also it had a great moment, man. And I'll tell you, one of the best moments I've seen in a long time is Rose when she won that fight, and the camera work was absolutely perfect because it like zoomed in on her hands. Her hands were shaking, and like she was just so happy, and I was just so happy for her. Like I mean,
yeah,
she's always been such a gamer and never backed down and always fought with all of her heart, win, lose, or draw. And like to go in there and like know that like the chances of beating that girl is tough. I mean, she is a brick house. Like and to go
yeah,
in there and just fight her and not have any and to be talking about being the best when you walk out there and like you're just so focused and like I feel like just good things happen to good people sometimes. And that was just a
yeah,
fantastic moment, man.
yeah. I mean, and that's been a big thing for me lately, and I recently gotten, you know, people were upset at me for calling out the media, and then I'm not a big fan of certain fighters because there's so many great stories to talk about in this sport, and real true stories of people just giving it their all, to talk about, and people like Rose and people like in my position. Um, that you don't have to create a fake story and try to build up this beef, and the fans love it. It's a little WWE-ish to me, a little gimmicky, and that builds the fight. But to me, it's like the real stories is what is inspiring to me. It's the authenticity, knowing like we know Rose at this point. We know that she doesn't like the limelight, that's probably the one thing that holds her back, but she's an amazing talent. And just to see her, how much it meant to her, for her to cry, to see her dreams come true right in front of us, to me, that's amazing and way better than, some gimmick, so
yeah,
that's what I really love about MMA, and that's the kind of stuff I want to see. So I was really excited to watch that.
Yeah, and last thing I want to ask you about is something gimmicky too. But before I go there really fast, and I'm with you on the media thing, and I did the same thing. I blasted the media as well, and people don't understand. Like, a lot of people supported me, some people didn't, but people don't understand. Like, as a fighter, the media is not fair. Like I mean, you can say what you want about the UFC and all these different organizations and companies and sponsors and managers and all these different people, right? But the media has never paid a fighter anything. I've never been paid for a single headline. I've never been paid for a single interview. I've never been paid for a single thing I've ever given the media, which is keeping them in business by getting stories from us. And then they twist the headlines. I'll do a 45-minute interview about one thing that's completely directional in one specific way, and then they'll twist it into something else and use it as a headline that I said one little thing about one of my teammates or about another fighter. And it's like, people don't understand that kind of pressure that puts on fighters, and they think when we lash out against the media, we're just trying to be angry and mean, and the media builds us and turns us into superstars, and we're just not appreciative. They don't appreciate like how many times the media fucked us over and like didn't care, and then they come back and ask for another interview, like the very next fight, and they want to get the exclusive and come in your hotel room and get you right up, and you're just like, dude, no. You remember last time when I lost and you said that I sucked and that I couldn't fight right, and I looked like nothing like myself, and I was skinny, they didn't know I was sick, and they're like, you're trying to cut too much weight. They had no idea what they were talking about. Like, no idea what they were talking. They had everybody think I was like sick with cancer or something, and like they had no clue what they were talking about. So I 100% agree with you on that, and I think people need to understand that the media is not as fair as they think.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? I am here in Thailand. This is the first time I've ever been here. Been dying to come here for years. Mike Swick, he's one of the big reasons he's been trying to pull me down here. What he built down here, AKA Thailand, is incredible. There's people here from all over the world. You can train mixed martial arts here, jiu-jitsu. They have weightlifting, they have cardio, and obviously they have Muay Thai, boxing, everything. I'm telling you guys, I know everybody wants to go to Thailand because Thailand's so cool, but you can't come to Thailand without coming to AKA Thailand. Come on.
But anyway, the last thing, real fast, speaking of kind of the media and gimmicky and stuff, what'd you think, first of all, what'd you think about the Askren, Jake Paul show and fight? Like, what were your thoughts on that just in general?
It was definitely hard to watch. I get what they're doing, and it's working, but it's just so much of a circus, and I can appreciate it because it does bring more fans to combat sports in general. I think it'll help. I think eventually people will see the talent difference between some of these gimmicky shows and then the real ones. And it's always good to have a little competition around. But yeah, for me, it's hard to watch as a purist. I even didn't like, I think we talked about the Snoop Dogg commentary. Yeah. I think he's hilarious. But when it's talking about fights and high level fighters, I appreciate somebody more knowledgeable and really, I felt like I'd like a college lecture during a high level fight, not, a kindergarten, teacher. You know, that's
He's
what it
making
felt
jokes, and it's like a fight out there. You know, like these people's brains are on the line, and I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so I could see when it's a gimmicky fight to have the funny commentary, yeah. But when it's a serious fight, I don't want to hear that. So there's some things I would do differently. Obviously, they're drawing a lot of attention. It's working. So, yeah, but, you know, I kept laughing to myself when Jake Paul was like, I'm a real fighter. He reminded me of Pinocchio. I'm a real boy, you know? Like, it's like, dude, you're like demanding people respect you as a real fighter, but you're calling out guys that are smaller than you, and you're picking off guys that you know you can pretty much beat. Like, the kid's talented, and he's making money, so I can't knock him. But yeah, you're not a real fighter yet. You know, you're getting there, but you're not a real fighter, and I don't take you that serious.
And that's what I had to come to the conclusion of. And like, you know, I feel like I'm moderately intelligent to some level, but like, you know, he's had a lot of time kind of like somewhat, I guess, brainwashing Disney kids, you know, all these kids into believing that what he's doing is real and all this kind of stuff. So he has a lot of experience kind of like sort of manipulating people into thinking certain things. And so he's so experienced. Now he's transferring that, and he's doing it and actually getting adults to buy into this same facade of like, I mean, you're talking about the fascinating thing to me is, and I was a little bit, you know, like I said, when I said I was moderately intelligent, I was losing that intelligence because I was actually getting salty a little bit in the beginning because he was attacking MMA fighters, and I found myself getting upset before I thought about it. But it's like he's not, you know, he's a boxer, and he's a big name in boxing, shockingly, and doing big numbers on pay-per-view, but he's never even fought a guy who trains in boxing. Now, there's a difference of fighting an actual boxer, but there's also a difference in fighting someone who's never even trained in boxing. He's never even fought someone who's trained in boxing, more or less a boxer. And so it's like, it's so silly that then you have to think about it from the business perspective and say, okay, I'm going to quit like buying into this. And then he obviously admits that he's just, it's a gimmick, it's a show. So now I feel like I'm trying to be smart and understand it's just a business. It is what it is. You know, I'm trying not to buy into this whole thing. He's not, you know, if you believe he's a fighter, and he can knock out anybody, then your intelligence is not where it should be. You're still on the kid level. If you had any legitimate intelligence, you know he's not a real fighter. So you know it's a gimmick. You know, either way it goes. He's fighting guys that he can beat, and I think he's gonna be a victim of his own success because he's already beat. You know, he's got a video gamer, he's got a YouTuber, and now he's got a retired wrestler who is just coming off hip replacement surgery, you know, who's older. I mean, he's running out of options as far as easy fights. He can't fight a golfer next, you know. It's like he's going to have to fight a guy who wants to fight Nate Diaz, God bless his soul. But he's going to have to fight somebody that has some hands next, and like you know, Nate or anybody with good hands is going to screw him up.
Fight Nate is a small 170 pounder. This dude is 200 pounds.
But still, Nate will mess this guy up, I think.
How come you're not calling out middleweights?
Well, like Dana said, won't you? I mean, I understand the money's not there, but like, won't you fight a boxer? You know, you're a boxer, fight a boxer instead of dragging MMA fighters with no striking experience into boxing where you train full time as a boxer. But it's interesting to me because, I mean, it's working. I mean, he's making money and he's selling his thing. It's disrespecting fighters. I guess we had Daniel Cormier, who was my teammate, which, you know, obviously bothered me a little bit. Had to confront him at the fight. And when they were confronting each other, it's like, it's clear who was the biggest lion. You know, like Daniel Cormier had his finger in his face. Jake Paul wasn't saying anything. He was like, he looked scared, but then afterwards he's like, you know, talking a bunch of trash about Daniel Cormier and saying, oh, you were supposed to slap me, but you didn't. It's like, you know, I don't know. It's weird for me, but it's interesting to see what's going to happen. So I was just getting your opinion, being a true martial artist like you have and fought as much as you have, to see a guy, you know, not only become such a big thing in fighting and not really be a fighter, but also disrespect guys like us who kind of like, you know, there's no chance he's going to get into a Cajun fight like a real man against anyone. Amanda Nunes would beat that guy in about 2 minutes, like dead serious. Like I would literally put like $100,000 on it that Amanda Nunes would beat that guy in the first round. And so it's like he's never going to fight like a real man. So it's just a matter of how long is this going to last for him. He's got to soak up as much as he can until he runs into a real fighter. And then the other thing is he's going to learn real fast that in fighting, second place is not fun. all these funny little memes he's got of these guys knocked out on his couch in his house and all that, all laying around. He's going to be one of those memes eventually. And if he didn't get that from Masvidal fighting Usman, his boy Masvidal, who talked all that trash about Askren and stuff and then got knocked out by a wrestler, if he didn't see from that fight that anything can happen when you fight and how bad it looks when you do get flatlined, I mean, he had to have thought a little bit like, if I keep fighting, this is going to happen. And it only takes one time. You know, you can have your whole career and knock out 50 people. You get knocked out and flatline one time. Those memes last forever, you know? And so I think that's where he's headed. And he's going to be the victim of his own success. Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the game he wants to play. You know, that's the game he keeps trying to push. The only thing I'm happy about is he's gotten a couple guys paid that I'm glad made some money. So that's the really only good thing I could take from it. And it's getting more people involved in combat sports in general, whether it be boxing, MMA, kickboxing, celebrity boxing. I just think combat sports in general is the coolest sports, and I want it to keep getting bigger, and I want there to be bigger money. So, you know, if that's the way it's got to go, to bring more fans in, as long as they appreciate each one. And that's why I was never big on the beef between MMA and boxing. It's like, man, I love them both. Yeah. They're both awesome. They're different. They don't have to, you know, compete. I want to see more crossover fights. That's the whole reason UFC came about in the first place, is let's see these crossover fights, these big fights, these what ifs. Let's get people paid. So yeah, as long as people don't think that, you know, start saying he's the greatest ever, next thing, you know, that'll be the next line, you know, where it's like, geez, all right, settle down.
Yeah, and I hate it. I hate it more than anything. I've never been a huge, I mean, I'm a huge boxing fan as far as respect, but I'm not like a huge boxing fan. Like, I got to watch every fight. I mean, even like Canelo's and the big fights, I don't really like pay attention to those as much, to be honest. And I hate it so much because I was bitter in the beginning of this. But I won't miss a Jake Paul fight. Like, that's the thing that pisses me off the most. I will 100% watch his fight over Canelo, over whoever else, just because I want to see what happens. And not to say I want to see him get knocked out, which it's not I'm trying to be negative, but either way it goes, something's going to happen. The guy's crazy. He's like the Conor McGregor it factor kind of thing. It's going to be interesting, you know. But anyway, I want to say thank you so much, man. You got a huge fight on May 1st against Giga. And I wish you the best of luck. I'm always rooting for you, man. And I love your fighting style. I've always been a fan of yours. And I appreciate you always taking time out to come on the podcast. Hope I didn't take up too much of your time. I told you it was going to be a short one this time. But you always make time for me, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a good end of your training camp and fight week.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And, yeah, I love coming on. I ignore so many people's requests to do interviews just because of the conversation that we just had about just never really doing me too many favors. But yeah, any you know, fighters that are doing other things, I love to support. So I love that you're out here doing your thing. So yeah, I'm just here to support you as well. So I appreciate you, and hopefully we'll chat after I get a big win.
I appreciate it, brother, and I hope you do get that big win. And I'll be watching from Thailand, and that's a place where you need to vacation after one of these victories, and I will show you an amazing time when you come here, man. We get a little bit of training in just for fun, and then I'll show you the islands and some cool animals and take some boat trips, and we'll have a great time, man. So put that on your list for the future.
Yeah, it's on my list. I know that there's going to be some travel restrictions here soon, so once things go back to normal, then we'll get it done.
All right, Cub. Thank you so much, man. Always a pleasure, brother. Big fan, and can't wait for your fight.
All right. Appreciate it, man.
Take care, buddy.
Later.